Let's start with Mazi Smith, the first defensive tackle taken in the first round since Russell Maryland back in 1991. The collective feeling that I was getting as this draft was going on is like, oh, Dan Quinn just gets all the toys. Is that right?
Yes, there's part of that, factors in. I have to point out, though, that it just kind of changed at defensive tackle when Mike McCarthy was hired as head coach. I mean, I understand Don Terry Poe didn't work out, but when they went after Don Terry Poe, that signified that, hey, defensive tackles can be looked at a little bit different around here. They were looking for someone to come, kind of get in there, a bigger, like 330, 340 type guy that wasn't really what you saw from Rod Marinelli for all those years. And so it's kept creeping up their list of things, but I still didn't think that they would take one in the first round. To hear some of that audio that has been put out now, I think it was earlier today that they put out a video, the team website did, and to see, Will McClay talking about the pick and it coming down to a guard in Mazi Smith, like it makes total sense why they would go, with that pick. It was, I'll believe it when I see it type thing. And I know we might get into this now, so I won't jump too far ahead, but like, it's almost like the Deuce Vaughn, I think it's an exciting pick, but you also got to show me that you're going to kind of use him in a way that honestly, who's the last pick that they've had or last player they've had that's anything like Deuce Vaughn that they've used in a way where, it's like, I'll believe it when I see it type thing. And that's how I was about the Mazi Smith. Like, I don't ever think they're going to take a defensive tackle in the first round because they haven't the entire time I've covered the team. So I thought for sure they were going to go tight end there just because of how big of a need it was. And obviously then they do it in the second. But I have no complaints about the Mazi Smith pick because it's been a need. Their run defense is the only thing you can really knock on the defense these last couple of years. And he should do a great job immediately of helping fix that.
Okay, so you mentioned the Mazi Smith. You went ahead and started getting into the Deuce Vaughn pick. So just like, let's go ahead and get there. Like, what was your reaction to that? Obviously, like there was the story of it, but him as a football player, how did you feel about it? And what impression have you gotten around the team of how they feel about Deuce Vaughn as an actual player outside of being Chris Vaughn's son?
Yeah, I think the thing you always have to factor with all this is like where they got him to, late sixth round. So who are you really taking in the sixth round? It could be the first pick in the sixth round that you really are like, no, this is going to be a key piece. We're going to build some of the offense around this. But that just doesn't happen. It's a sixth round pick. If it turns into Anthony Brown, you're elated, you're stunned. You're thrilled if you get big time play out of them. I mean, I think a lot of people at the Star feel the same way as a lot of fans do that follow college football. I mean, if you watched him at Kansas State, I mean, you didn't even have to know about him before the game, and he got your attention with just how well he plays, and the fact that if he was, 2-3 inches taller, he's probably a day 2 pick, or maybe even higher than that. But I think they have a plan. It just my thing is with him is I don't know how he fits with Tony Pollard. I see how he fits a lot more with Eekiel Elliott, but it's the fact of like, okay, so then who is going to be getting, this team's is in position to play a lot of big games against a lot of good teams. So, if they're up in Philly, it's in the fourth quarter and it's tight and it's, 4th and 1 or something, like who are they giving the ball to here when everyone knows that they're probably running it? I don't know. So again, like I need to see that, but the excitement of I think a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, man, Deuce Vaughn, if he got drafted by the Chiefs, everybody would have been flipping out like, oh, my, what could he do in that offense with Patrick Mahomes and things like that? Not to say that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't been a hit there either, but there's just a part of me where I just, I don't like to use them in the passing game. Like, I can't wait to see that just because we haven't really seen them use a smaller guy like that in the passing game a ton. So, I'm fascinated by it. And then the last part that I'll add in is just because of the fact that they already have Kevontae Turpin, and there was all that talk of how they would use him more in the offense, and that never, manifested. But the story is, I've covered the draft now for 10 years, 15 years, and it's by far the best one I've ever covered. And there's people that have covered it 2-3 times as long as I have that said the same thing. So the whole deal of it makes tons of sense, and it's a great story. But I would just I don't think that this pick or anything that they've done, makes me think that running back still isn't a need for them.
Oh, and that hypothetical that you posed, it sounds like a great opportunity to acquiesce to Micah Parsons, let him do a little bit on the offensive side, doesn't it?
There you go. I'm sure he would love that, and most people in DFW would love that until like there's an injury. Then you're like, we're not doing that anymore. So yeah, that would be interesting, sure. And hey, they signed a fullback as an undrafted guy, so maybe that's a factor too. But I mean, just for anything that anybody wants to knock on Zeke towards let's say like last few seasons, he was still really good in short yard situations. Like you felt confident in one of those situations that he could get you that yard or two if you really absolutely needed it. And right now, I mean, they have guys that obviously could get it, but I don't think that you feel as confident as you did when 21 was back there.
I still won't be shocked if Eekiel Elliott's there in Oxnard in training camp when training camp begins in late July. Like I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. At least the way that Jerry continues to leave that door open, whether it be he's saying it in tongue in cheek or not, wouldn't be surprised if Zeke is back with this team. Get to training camp.
Yeah, you can't completely close the door on it. I mean, I don't think it's very likely. I think Jerry, after the draft, a lot of that is Zeke hasn't signed with a team yet. It makes no sense for Jerry to sit there and say, no, that ship has sailed. We've closed the door on that. We're going in another direction. Like Jerry also loves the story of it. He loves he loves to keep the door cracked on everything, whether it's Odell Beckham recently or, you go back 3-4 years. The one that I'll always remember is just Earl Thomas. You'd be told by other people like Earl Thomas doesn't come here, but Jerry loved that door would stay cracked a little bit, even though he knew it probably wasn't going to happen. And in kind of another way that's not, apples to apples, but Jerry loves bringing up Johnny Manziel. Like most owners and GMs would not want to bring that up, that you were even thinking of taking him over somebody who will probably be in the Ring of Honor, and Zach Martin. Zach Martin's one of the greatest draft picks in Dallas Cowboys history. Johnny Manziel would have been one of the worst picks in Dallas Cowboys history, but because of the name and everybody knows it, like Jerry loves to bring that up. So I don't know. I think it's interesting because obviously Dak would like him to still be on the team. There's obviously people in the locker room that would like for him to be on the team, but it's not that common for that type of a move to happen, where a guy that is a franchise type player gets released out of his contract and then resigns at a significantly lower amount. But you know what? It's Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. I guess anything's possible.
Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you this because we see how the resources have been spent this offseason, obviously in the draft, reinforcing those resources. Do we need to start looking at the Cowboys through the lens of being a defensive team when it comes to their identity?
Absolutely. And again, it's so easy to poke fun at how awful things went in 2020. Mike Nolan, the way that transition went during the COVID year, it obviously didn't work. It was a disaster, but there are so many things that if you go back and you listen to Mike McCarthy or Mike Nolan at that time, that this isn't something that changed just because they hired Dan Quinn. Now, Dan Quinn, and Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs helped accelerate it. But when Mike McCarthy took over as head coach, he knew the defense had to improve significantly. Now, I don't know that he knew it would get to this level, but because it's become such a strength, they've done, things to add to it so that it does get to a point where we have seen it shift, where for so many years, whether it's how they drafted or just the way they played, you were like, yeah, Dallas Cowboys, offensive first team. It was like that. You just assumed it was like that. And now this is a team that, the edge is shifted over to the defense. I mean, there's not many teams there. They're on their level defensively. This is a team that should be able to win a lot of games on defense if things go their way, in the health department, and they're able to keep it together. And then the fact that they've been able to keep, Dan Quinn in the building. So, yeah, it's gone from a Cowboys offensive first to Cowboys defensive first.
Well, hopefully Mozzie Smith turns into Mike McCarthy's B.J. Raji. Let's hope that happens for him throughout the course of his.
Well, what do you think about Kenny Clark, though? I know they're not the same type of player, but, I think he had some success. Mike was there when they drafted Kenny Clark at the end of the first round,
Mm-hmm.
So, I get where he's coming from, the pick it makes a lot of sense when you look at it that way. It's just a problem. A lot of people that aren't completely on board, I think their opinion would completely change if you could go and look in Dane Brugler's The Beast and see that Mozzie Smith had 6 sacks last year and 5 the year before. The fact that he only has 1.5 sacks in his entire Michigan career. I think that's the part that keeps people from being like, man, this was a really good pick. But truthfully, I really do believe it was a really good pick.